going Back to the Future. The only thing better than this would be back-to-back Back to the Futures. All the sequels at once, back-to-back Back to the Futures. Plus the Disney World Back to the Future back-breaking thrill ride, because you can't have too much Back to the Future, can ya? And after that, because it's motor oil night, we are showing a movie that I don't know how this one got on again, the immortal Stephen King Maniac truck movie, Maximum Overdrive, because did you know that every single truck in Maximum Overdrive used Valvoline motor oil? That's true. And speaking of history repeating itself, you know what really burns my bacon? It's when you're watching some show about doughboys in World War I. And by the way, while we're on the subject, how did we ever win the Gall-Dang War with guys who thought it was cool to be called a doughboy? So anyhow, as I was saying before I interrupted myself, it really ticks me off when I'm watching one of these shows on the History Channel and they show the marching doughboys and they're walking at like 20 zillion miles an hour. Why are the guys who make these documentaries too dang lazy to fix the film? All right, I'm going to say this, and I'm only going to say it once. Early silent films were filmed at the rate of 18 frames a second. Sometimes 16, sometimes 17, sometimes even 19, because they used a hand crank on some of those cameras. The guy had to be rock steady. But whatever it was never, ever 24 frames a second, which is what we use now. And when you take an 18 frame a second movie and you show it on a 24 frame a second projector, everybody looks like cartoon characters running around like constipated chickens. Do you want to see this? I don't want to see this. In fact, they've done this so many times that there are people like my friend Luke Willikers who actually believe that the old silent movies were shown that way in theaters. He said, you see, Joe Bob, they didn't have the technology that we have. And I point out to Luke that they had the technology to make a camera that films at 18 frames a second, so they probably had the technology to make a projector that ran the film back at 18 frames a second. I don't think guys were sitting around the Edison laboratories in New Jersey going, you know what we could do? This will be funny. Let's shoot them at 18 and then play them back at 24, and every film will look like nervous people running around like crazy. Won't that be funny? I mean, the Keystone Cops run fast, but they never run as fast as they run on the film that we show at the wrong speed, you know. A few years back, a buddy of mine did this documentary on Teddy Roosevelt, and he took all the old black and white film of the president, and he time-corrected it to make it run at the right speed. Well, voila! The man was elegant and gracious, and he looked normal. He wasn't a little bundle of energy like zillions all still see him as. So my question is, why aren't all these silent films time-corrected? There's only so much Benny Hill you can watch. You know what I mean? And speaking of miracles in modern programming, we've got Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future, the feel-good hit of 1985, about what would happen if you turned a DeLorean into a time travel machine and went back 30 years and got involved in your parents' love life before they were married and before you were born, with Crispin Glover as the nerdy dad in one of the best performances of his career. And I won't tell you much about it because I don't want to ruin it, but I will give you those drive-in totals we have. No dead bodies, exploding stereo system, extreme sport skateboarding, 1 wrecked auto, 1 plutonium-powered DeLorean, 3 motor vehicle chases with 4 crashes, manure truck humor, 4 fistfights, gratuitous Libyan terrorists, gratuitous Valvoline references by yours truly, lightning foo, about 3.5 stars. So check it out, and we'll be hanging around here all night. And don't forget our second feature, backed by popular demand, Maximum Overdrive, finest movie ever made in Wilmington, North Carolina. So that's one movie I wouldn't mind speeding up a few frames, actually. No, it's good. Actually, there is one movie filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina that's better. King Kong Lives is better, but who can compete with giant monkeys having sex, you know? Kind of a frantic movie here at the beginning with Michael J. Fox skateboarding all over town, hitching rides on the backs of trucks. You know what's funny about that? In the original script for this movie, the time machine was in a refrigerator. You had to get in the refrigerator, close the door, and it would take you to the future or the past. But that was changed because they were afraid that kids would lock themselves in refrigerators. But apparently they didn't care whether skateboarders grabbed onto the backs of cars going 40 miles an hour. So anyhow, eagle-eyed observers will notice that the person who tells Michael J. Fox's music is too darn loud is rocker Huey Lewis. Huey's song that he did for the movie got nominated for the Oscar, Power of Love. Remember summer of '85? We got real sick of that song, didn't we? Okay, well, oh, wait a sec. I'm supposed to mention that it's Awesome 80s Week. It's motor oil night. But Motor Oil Night is part of Awesome 80s Week. And also, you know, because we have Motor Oil Night every year, we go and we look at all the motor oils in the world and we choose the best one. So it's Valvoline on Motor Oil Night. So that's logical, right? Okay, back to the flick. It's such a nice flick. Actually, you think this flick is nice. Wait till you hear what we've got next week. Look Who's Talking To. Oh, no, I know. Okay, roll it. TNT thinks if they keep giving me these movies, my personality will change, you know. It's kind of like being married, you know, because a woman says, I love you, I want to be with you, but can you just be a little different? And you say, but you liked that. You liked me when we were dating. No, I didn't. I never liked you. Yes, you did. You liked me just as I am. Well, I never liked you as you were. I liked you for your potential. You know that thing they always say, men are dogs. I never understood that because dogs are like friendly, warm, unselfish. But I figured out what they mean. They mean they think they can train us, right? Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox in the movie that kind of put both of them on the big screen map because they both had successful TV series. Christopher Lloyd was on Taxi and Michael J. Fox was on Family Ties. But this movie started hugely successful film careers for both of them. And what's interesting about that is that Michael J. Fox is not the guy they started the movie with. They shot 4 weeks of film. You know how much of film that is? 4 weeks of film with Eric Stoltz in the starring role. And then Steven Spielberg decided his acting was too intense for the flick. And so he fired him and he threw all the film away. It cost $4 million. And they started the movie over again with Michael J. Fox, who would work on Family Ties till 5 o'clock, work on this movie from 6 to midnight, and then start all over again the next day. But I have a question about all these movies like Goonies and Back to the Future and Poltergeist that Steven Spielberg produced, but he didn't direct. How come he picked the little girl in Poltergeist? And how come he was able to fire the actor from Back to the Future? What were the directors doing in these movies? The director of Back to the Future is Robert Zemeckis, who's made a bunch of monster hits like Romancing the Stone and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Forrest Gump. Wouldn't he be a little ticked off if he wrote the movie, he's directing the movie, and Big Steve is over there saying, fire this guy? Because after all, he didn't butt in when Steven was directing 1941, which Robert Zemeckis wrote. You know what I'm saying? I'm just asking, you know, don't shoot me. I don't know any of these people. I don't know any super famous people. Okay, the DeLorean time machine works, so back to the Future. Roll it. I do know one super famous person. I know Robert De Niro, and that's only because I was in a scene with a couple scenes in this movie with him. I walked around for a week saying, can I get you a glass of water, Mr. De Niro? Here, take my chair. Would you like me to say my lines quieter? Because, you know, maybe they can't hear you well enough, sir. I don't want to say he's intimidating, but he makes me nervous. You know, sorry, Bobby, I touched your sleeve. Let me get that speck off there for you. I turned into a total weenie. Really takes off with Michael J. Fox back in 1955 thanks to the flux capacitor. They weren't real accurate, though, because Cattle Queen of Montana, the Ronald Reagan movie showing at the local theater, and that scene we just watched was actually released in 1954. I think Michael J. Fox is great in this movie. He got mixed reviews when it came out, but I think it was just critics being snobby about TV actors. They thought he was just a TV actor, right? But he was a fairly experienced guy at this point. He was 24 years old, but he'd been working 9 years since he started on Canadian TV back in his native Vancouver. He grew up at a bunch of military bases. His dad was in the Army, but he'd also made 3 other movies at this point. He made Midnight Madness, sorry, not Midnight Express. Michael J. Fox in Midnight Express, that would have been woo. But Midnight Madness in 1980, Class of 1984, which came out in 82. I love that movie. And The Immortal Teen Wolf. So, okay, let's get back to the funny little jokes about the difference between the 50s and the 80s. Everybody always loves that part. Okay, roll it. And it is Awesome 80s Week on TNT, and it's Motor Oil Night, sponsored by Valvoline, our selected motor oil of this night. What else am I supposed to mention? Oh, you know what? There is another thing I'm supposed to mention. There's a TNT original movie on tomorrow night called Pirates of Silicon Valley, with the guy from ER playing Steve Jobs and the guy from 16 Candles playing Bill Gates. And they said if I mention that tonight, the guys in the advertising department won't come break my thumbs and rip my set apart. Okay. Oh, man. Here we go. The cute part. You can put this in a time travel movie 1,000 times and people still love it. You know, the scene where the guy asked for something that exists now, but it didn't exist then. Ha, ha, ha. That's so funny. He wants to know where the automatic cash machine is. Ha, ha, ha. Yeehaw. This joke is pretty funny. The Calvin Klein joke is hysterical. But they made another mistake. The guy in the diner says something about, oh, then who's the first lady? Jane Wyman? But Ronald Reagan divorced Jane Wyman in 1952, and this is supposed to be 1955. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Joe Bob, you're taking all the fun out of the movie. But hey, I think it's a cute movie. I like it. Crispin Glover. I love him as Marty's dad. He's great. This started a whole big thing for Crispin Glover. Everybody remembers him for this movie. Of course, I remember him for Friday the 13th, the final chapter. So, there you go again, Joe Bob, ruining everything. Okay, I'll shut up. Run the movie. You know what I admire about Crispin Glover, though? One more thing about Crispin Glover. Crispin Glover, in 1987, published a book called Rat Catching. Yeah, it was actually a reprint of a 100-year-old book, but Crispin decided it needed illustration. So he put out this new edition with bright color pictures of mutilated rats. Then he recorded an album with lyrics by Charles Manson and a picture of Adolf Hitler on the cover. So, Crispin Glover, the lovable dad in Back to the Future. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? Okay, while Marty tries to deal with the reverse Oedipus problem of his mother having the hots for him, it's time for Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless, and to help us out is the ever-popular TNT Mail Girl, and whoa, that is that. You do have an awesome 80s outfit, don't you? Nice jewelry.
Thank you.
Dungeons were big in the 80s. I like that. Okay, Rusty, did you notice how I just referred to the greatest work of Greek theater, Oedipus Rex?
No, I didn't.
What, have they got you in a soundproof booth back there? Were you listening?
No, I just wasn't paying attention.
All right. Well, can't you say you were busy delivering the neighbor's mail or something? You have to tell me you weren't paying attention. That's not,
It's the
doesn't
truth.
lead to good... Okay, I know it was the truth. I was just looking for something a little more diplomatic.
Oh,
all right?
you mean you want me to lie?
Yes.
Well, I would have heard you mention the Oedipus Rex, but I got a run in my stocking and David was helping me fix it.
How about a lie that doesn't, like, give the producer such an advantage, all right?
It's not a lie, it's the truth.
Okay, never mind. You got a letter for me?
It's an email. It's from Diane Rogers in Morongo Valley, California.
We lost the whole Oedipus Rex thing there just because of that. Dear Joe Bob, I truly do enjoy you. I like this letter so far. You never fail to bring a great deal of humor to what are most of the time some really bad movies, such as The Howling 7. I can't believe she thinks The Howling 7 is a really bad movie. Diane, The Howling 7 isn't a really bad movie. It's the worst movie we've ever shown here, therefore one of my favorite movies that we've ever shown here. You stated that you didn't know where Pioneer Town was. Well, it's about 35 miles northeast of Palm Springs, California, in the higher elevations of the desert. That's where Howling 7 was filmed. Living in Morongo Valley and doing a lot of riding in the hills of Pioneer Town, needless to say, I sat in disbelief as I watched an entire cast of people that I thought I knew perform. I was there when they were looking for extras and was asked if I wanted to be in it, but they wouldn't write in a part for my mule. I thought it would have been a great scene if the red eyes of the camera would have chased my ass through town and into the bar. I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? If you're ever in the area, let me know. And you can see that it really is true about what they say about us desert dwellers. We may be a bit strange, but we are a lot of fun. Keep up the good work. And by the way, the lady playing the spoons in the movie was Aunt Bee. Don't know whose aunt she is, but she really does play the spoons up there every weekend. Sincerely, Diane Rogers. Diane, you're telling me that the release of The Howling 7 did not send the residents of Pioneer Town fleeing into the surrounding hills? Just please don't tell me they're still line dancing up there. What did you think of The Howling 7?
Oh, it was awesome.
Tell the truth.
Oh, I didn't see it.
You didn't even watch it? Finest country western werewolf sequel ever made in the greater Barstow area. She says Palm Springs. I thought it was Barstow. They show Barstow on the thing, but we're collecting new information on Howling 7 every week. Keep those letters coming in. That's Leah Thompson as the mom with the hots for her own son in the role that she is best remembered for. Everybody in this movie kind of made their mark with this film. Leah was a professional ballet dancer who turned to acting and didn't have real great luck with the roles she got. Great actress, but she made Jaws 3D. And then she got kind of famous in this movie. Then she made Howard the Duck. She was in Dennis the Menace. You know, just kind of snake bit. Always working, though. Got that TV series. What's the name of that thing? Caroline in the City. Okay, I don't want to interrupt the movie anymore, so let's roll. You know, I went to Howard the Duck, and I can't remember a single thing about it. I saw it. They had the duck with the midget inside. That's all I remember. I think it was the same midget who was inside E.T. Think how she must have felt, though. I mean, it's not like you get that many chances. How many movies come along where they want a 3-foot actor to run around in an animal suit? You know, she was banking on Howard the Duck, too. Famous Johnny B. Good scene from Back to the Future, in which Michael J. Fox actually invents rock and roll before our eyes. That scene is where the movie goes a little off target, I think. I mean, why do that? They didn't need that scene. Anyway, it was a white guy all along, right, that invented rock and roll. The movie got criticized for that, actually. They said it was racist to imply that Chuck Berry was inspired by a white guy. You just want to say to some of these film critics, get a life, you know? Find something to do with your time, all right? The only thing I think is strange about the scene is that they have an all-black band playing for the prom at an all-white school in 1955. Now, did they do that in 1955? I thought they had those crooner groups, those white crooner groups, guys in plaid jackets and penny loafers that harmonized, right? I thought that was the whole reason Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis got famous, because they took black music and they took it into places that only allowed white people. But there I go again, ruining the movie, right? Okay, now, the great conclusion to Back to the Future. I really do like Zemeckis and Gale, though, the screenwriting team that wrote this. USC Film School guys, they wrote this. They wrote Used Cars, I Want to Hold Your Hand. They wrote 1941. Well, they wrote Used Cars, so let's not dwell on Zemeckis Gale writing credits at this point. You know who else's career got a big boost out of that movie? Huey Lewis. The Power of Love and Back in Time. Those songs were on the radio forever. Anyhow, there were 2 sequels, one in 1989, one in 1990, and I didn't see them. Anybody see them? Why aren't we showing all 3 of them tonight? Remember when we did that with the Poltergeist movie? Showed all 3 right in a row? There's still people in intensive care units as a result of that night. Okay, I want to let you know I already got the cooler packed for next week because we're showing Look Who's Talking To, the one with Roseanne as the voice of the baby sister, one of the only 0-star flicks in the Monstervision repertoire. And we'll follow that up with Highlander, where Sean Connery teaches Christopher Lambert how to sword fight his way through immortality. That one also has Roseanne as the voice of the Rosetta Stone. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and it's time for Maximum Overdrive, considered by most critics to be the worst Stephen King movie ever made. I don't want to hurt Steve's feelings. You know, I know he tunes in now and then. Steve, if you're watching, I personally think the movie does have its moments, and it's about these machines that start taking over the world, like automatic bank machines that use the F word when you try to get your money out, and only the last survivors on Earth end up at Pat Hingle's truck stop watching the 18-wheelers drive around and around all by their lonesome. And we got some excellent splatter effects in this one. We got a little kid on his bike getting Aunt Jemima'd by a steamroller. We got a leaping electric carving knife and various forms of deranged lawn care equipment. And I want you to concentrate on this very first scene. What incredibly famous person is seen screaming in the front seat of her car while the car is destroyed by flying watermelons? Let's do those drive-in totals and start the movie before you forget to check on that. We have 20 dead bodies, 1 possible breast, 1 dead dog, 28 dead motor vehicles, 6 quarts of blood, the only drive-in movie in the history of the world to have all its music performed by AC/DC, 12 exploding trucks, 1 exploding ice cream truck, 2 motor vehicle chases, wrist carving, random video game electrocutions, little leaguers massacred for no reason, steamrolling of small children, ventilated Pat Hingle, filthy restrooms, gratuitous version of King of the Road, vending foo, diesel foo, garbage truck foo, bazooka foo, 2.5 stars, Maximum Overdrive. Check it out. I'll be here all night to help you out with it. Go. I hope Valvoline knows what they got into when they sponsored this one. They'll have a very fine-tuned demographic by the time it's over, though. Let's see, it'll be 1 bored hospital security guard, you know, a gal who wants to have Emilio Estevez's baby, and a bunch of guys in prison. That's basically it. They use a lot of motor oil, though. You know, no matter how many times I make fun of Maximum Overdrive, Big Steve still speaks to me. You know, he invited me to his big 25th anniversary party celebrating the publication of Carrie after 25 years. Steve, you're a bigger man than I, but that's what happens in middle age. You know, you get a little mellow. And also, Steve, you could really lose 10, 20 pounds, can't you? Won't be any more invitations, will there?